Okay, David Chalian will be watching, as we know you will be. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, so let's discuss further with CNN political commentator Scott Jennings. He served as special assistant to President George W. Bush. Scott, great to see you. Let's talk about what's going on in Georgia with Brian Kemp. So he had to today try to explain his relationship with Donald Trump, and here's what he said.
I had a great relationship with Mike Pence. I had a great relationship with President Trump. I've never said anything bad about him. I don't plan on doing that. I'm not mad at him. I think he's just mad at me, and that's something that I can't control.
Okay, so number one, what do you hear in that statement? And number two, if Kemp wins bigly, as President Trump used to like to say, does that change Donald Trump's kingmaker status?
Well, first of all, for Brian Kemp, I think the kind of authenticity you heard in that answer is the way he's run his campaign, and it's in large part why he's winning so big here, because he didn't try to contort himself. He didn't try to play semantics games, about how this has all gone down. He just accepted the reality, leaned into it, stated his position, and I think the voters have rewarded him for it. Governor's races are often about competence, likability, authenticity, and the future. And Kemp has just really done great in every single category. Regarding the future of the Republican Party, I think that was the second part of your question,
well,
Allison.
It was about the kingmaker status. Like, do you think that his kingmaker status, Donald Trump's, hinges on this?
Well, I mean, look, I think he's still extremely influential with Republican voters. It's just in this particular case, he ran up against somebody who figured out how to solve the equation. It doesn't mean Donald Trump isn't an influential person anymore. But Kemp's also had the benefit, too, of having, and sometimes in the Republican Party, the way you can explain success is by having all the right enemies. DeSantis in Florida has this right now. Kemp, in many ways, has had all the right enemies. He defeated Stacey Abrams. He stood up against some of the corporations in Georgia in 2020. He, stuck to his guns on the Georgia election law that, a lot of the national liberal establishment came down on him for. So even though Donald Trump was mad at him, he then cultivated some of the right enemies that I think signaled to Republican voters, hey, Brian Kemp really is one of us despite Donald Trump's opinion. So does it totally throw out his kingmaker status? No. Does it show a way to stand up to Donald Trump? Yes. And does it show the right way to run a campaign when you have this dynamic? Absolutely. People should study the Brian Kemp model.
It's interesting to hear what some Republican governors are now saying about Donald Trump and how he's conducting himself in 2022. Basically, they're calling his involvement his personal vendetta tour, and one of the people talking about it is former New Jersey Governor Christie. He said this yesterday. This is not the best use. Okay, so basically what he's talking about is having to spend money in Georgia to fend off Donald Trump's attacks. And he says this is just not the best use of our money. We would much rather use it in races against Democrats, but it was made necessary because Donald Trump decided on the vendetta tour this year. And so we need to make sure we protect these folks who are the objects of his vengeance. So what's the larger point here?
Well, the larger point is Christie is exuding the quaint notion that political parties are about the team and about the health and future of the party as a whole. Of course, he's doing that in the era of Donald Trump, who's made the Republican Party all about himself. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't think about, hey, party resources would be better spent here or there, and this is how we win more races. I mean, he doesn't view the world through that lens. Now, fortunately, the Republican Governors Association decided to view the world exactly through that lens, and that's the role of a party or a party committee to help the party's incumbents and the party's rock star office holders win election. And in Georgia, that's a big deal because Stacey Abrams is one of the top Democrat recruits in the country. She will not lack for resources. So every dollar we've thrown away in this useless Republican primary is a dollar and we could have spent in the fall. That's a really good party strategist way to look at it, and that's what Christie has been in his career. And I'm glad he's standing up for that point of view because it strengthens the party when people do that, and it works.
I'm not sure that Congressman Mo Brooks is following your credo about the team because, as you know, he's running for Senate in Alabama, and he is doing so by going after your longtime boss and colleague, Mitch McConnell. So let me read to you what he says. Mo Brooks says on Twitter, we only have a couple more days until the primary election. Remember, this election is a battle between Mitch McConnell and the swamp versus grassroots conservatives. Is that a winning strategy?
Well, I mean, Mo Brooks's problem is that Donald Trump was for him and now he's against him and bailed out on him. and he's trying to make this race about something else. I don't think it's going to be a winning strategy. That race has gotten interesting, though. You know, Brooks had fallen back, and now the latest polling shows him rising. It seems like we're headed for a runoff in Alabama. Actually, for all the races Tuesday night, Alabama Senate is one of the most interesting. It's one of the closest races. It's got some of the strangest dynamics and really, I think, one of the best candidates in the country in Katie Britt that the Republicans could nominate. So I'll be up in New York for election coverage Tuesday night. That's one I'll be watching closely because I think it may say quite a bit about where the Republicans are headed in the fall.
Okay. Scott Jennings, thanks so much. And we'll be right back.